When a federal judge nominee freezes on basic questions, like do cops kill unarmed black men daily or are voter ID laws racist, it's not a job interview anymore. It's a spotlight on exactly who we're handing power to. Senator Kennedy came loaded. The nominee, cornered, exposed, unraveling.
Judge, congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to try to understand the facts on some of these cases.
Yes, sir.
The Albertus Lewis case. He shot his girlfriend in the head. Is that correct?
Senator, as I stated, I'm not sure if you were in here earlier, that case is still pending. He's not been convicted of any of those charges. And so I have to be really careful in how I frame my question.
Did he shoot his girlfriend in the head?
Senator, based on, those are the allegations of the charge, yes.
So you're saying he didn't shoot his girlfriend in the head?
He has not been convicted of anything, is my understanding. And I know it's a very old case. It's 2017.
Well, when you granted him bond, did you think he had shot his girlfriend in the head? He was charged with shooting his girlfriend in the head, wasn't he?
Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome.
Those are the allegations. When he initially appeared before me,
Okay.
I denied his bond based on everything.
Let
that
me
was
start
before
over. Okay. Mr. Lewis was charged and arrested, so presumably there was probable cause, with shooting his girlfriend in the head and putting her body in a wheelchair and dumping her outside the hospital. Those were the allegations. Is that right?
I believe those were the allegations, yes, sir.
Okay. And you gave Mr. Lewis bond. Is that right?
No, that's incorrect, Senator. I denied his bond. When he appeared before me in July of 2017.
So you didn't give him bond? He didn't release him?
I denied his bond. It was 2
Did
years
you ultimately
late.
release him?
2 years later, after the state violated the
Did you
court's
grant
order.
his bond? I'm just trying to understand the facts.
Yes, sir. 2 years later, after
You
the
granted
state.
his bond.
When he initially appeared before me, I denied the bond. It was 2 years after
Okay.
that I granted a bond.
You did grant the bond.
After the violation by the
Right.
state of the court order to try his case and discovery rules.
And then he went out and tried to kill 2 sheriff's deputies while using a baby as a human shield, allegedly. Is that right?
Those are the allegations in the other case, yes.
Okay. Would he been able to do that if you hadn't let him go?
Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome.
When he appeared before me, I denied his bond. He appeared before me again, at which point
And you let him go?
the state violated the order of the court.
But I'm just
And
trying
I
to
said a
understand the facts.
sufficiently
You
high
let him
bond.
go. If you hadn't have let him go, then he could not have tried to kill 2 sheriff's deputies using a child, as a human shield. Factually, is that correct?
I'm not sure, Senator.
Oh, I think you are. Let me ask you about Kelly Honeywell. You remember that name?
Senator, I did not have any involvement in that actual case, but I am familiar with what you're referring to.
Okay. You remember Troy Stevenson?
Yes.
All right. Troy Stevenson was arrested, allegedly, for shooting Kelly Honeywell, killing her, murdering her at a bakery. Mr. Honeywell was arrested. And Mr. Honeywell allegedly was a member of a gang. He owned guns and he did drugs. Okay? You granted Mr. Stevenson bail. Is that right?
I didn't, in that case, I did not set bail bond in that case when he was charged with murder.
You didn't let him go?
I did not set the bond on the murder charge.
Who did?
I don't know who's, one
Well,
of
how
my
did he
colleagues.
get out of jail?
Are you asking about the murder charge?
What I'm asking, and I think you know what I'm asking, Mr. Stevenson allegedly was arrested for shooting this bakery worker in the head. And he was granted bail. He was let out. You didn't grant the bail?
No, sir.
Who did?
My understanding is his bond was denied in that case on the murder case. Mr. Stevenson, I believe, after trial, was found not guilty of those charges. But I did not set the bond on the murder case. I did not try the case on the murder case. I did not set the bond on the murder case.
Okay. I think I'm out of time. Thanks, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Judge Benjamin,
Good morning.
good morning. There has been considerable discussion nationally about policies of Democratic district attorneys and Democratic judges releasing violent criminals who in turn around and commit more violent crimes and make our communities less safe. This has been a problem plaguing the country as we've seen crime rates skyrocket and murder rates skyrocket. And it is a problem that is exacerbated by the Biden administration and the Democrats in the Senate who continue to further the priorities of releasing violent criminals. When I look at your record, I see a pattern of doing the same thing. You're very familiar with the case of Albertus Lewis. Albertus Lewis allegedly shot Myra Sanchez in the head and then dumped her body in a wheelchair outside of a hospital in downtown Columbia. You granted Lewis a surety bond in the amount of $150,000. After you did so, it turned out that Lewis was involved in yet another violent incident when police responded to a domestic violence scene involving Lewis, where a woman called 911 saying Lewis had a gun and was setting things on fire. When police arrived, they had to fire almost immediately because of the danger, and they had to go in because Lewis picked up a small child and used a small child as a human shield, in the process causing injury to two sheriff's deputies. Do you think it was a mistake to release a violent criminal on bond when he went out and committed yet another violent crime?
Thank you, Senator. As I previously stated, Mr. Lewis, when he initially appeared before me, I denied his bond. It was not until after the state violated the court's order to try his case. There was issues with discovery missing in the case. And Senator, I'll just say this, the case is still pending. It's a 2017 case. It is still pending. There's issues with discovery in the case, and the defendant was asserting his right, Sixth Amendment right to a speedy trial. That was after 2 years when he initially appeared before me, and I denied his bond. In considering any bond, Senator, I consider the United States Constitution, the South Carolina Constitution, and I have to consider the bond statute of the General Assembly in South Carolina.
Okay, so you just said you did it because of a speedy trial claim. What is the remedy for a speedy trial claim?
The remedy for a speedy trial claim is dismissal.
So you didn't do that, did you?
My consideration was based on him violating the court's previous order of not trying the case. It was
By the way,
not
what's
based-
the Fourth Circuit precedent on speedy trial claims? And isn't it in fact the case that the Fourth Circuit has repeatedly held that substantially longer delays don't violate the speedy trial clause?
Well, I think there's an analysis that has to be done.
Do you engage in that analysis?
Yes, and part of that analysis is that the state has to give a reason as to why they did not try the case. And in that case, the state did not have a reason
So
whatsoever.
you said you engaged in that analysis. Did you write an opinion? Did you explain your reasoning from the bench?
I don't recall. I do not recall, but we do not usually have published opinions in South Carolina.
Well, you know, the court they've appointed you to, that's what they do. And
Yes, I understand that.
so I'm going to give you a chance to answer my question again, because I started with, do you think it was a mistake to release a violent criminal who turned around and injured two sheriff's deputies and held up a little child as a human shield. Was it a mistake?
Thank you again, Senator. Once again, I consider the issues before me. I consider the Constitution of the state of South Carolina, the United States, and the bond code. And
But
I
you
made
know,
my
that's not
decision
any
based on
comfort
that.
to the families of the sheriff's deputies who were shot by the violent criminal you released. And you have a pattern of doing so in other cases as well, including releasing one of the people involved in yet another murder of Kelly Honeywell, a 33-year-old single mother of 4 who was murdered, shot during a robbery, and you released one of the individuals involved in that. And listen, what I find amazing is the Biden administration claims they bear no responsibility for releasing violent criminals who turn around and murder people. But then President Biden keeps nominating judicial nominees who have a history of releasing violent criminals who turn around and murder people. And every Senate Democrat's going to vote to confirm you, and they're going to go home and tell their constituents, oh, we don't support releasing violent criminals who turn around and murder people, and yet we keep following this pattern over and over again. There's a reason people are very concerned about the safety of their families.
Senator Booker.
It's good to be back, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to be before you, Judge. I'm grateful. I just want to take a moment, though. It's tough to see issues of crime become so weighted in partisanship in our country when we all share the same values. We all want safe homes and safe communities. And the way data is often parsed is such a venal kind of crass.
What unfolded in that hearing wasn't judicial vetting. It was a slow, uncomfortable clinic on how to publicly dismantle your own credibility with a smile and a stack of legalese. Senator John Kennedy wasn't there to play philosopher king. He wasn't fishing for intellectual nuance or warmed-over academic abstractions. He came with a chisel, and the nominee's veneer of rhetorical deflection cracked faster than a cheap courtroom facade. The questions? Blunt, but not unfair. Does opposing white supremacy logically require opposing voter ID laws? Do you actually believe unarmed black men are gunned down by police every single day in America? Are voter ID laws, in your view, inherently inappropriate? These aren't legal curveballs. They're basic indicators of judicial temperament, ideological rigidity, and, most importantly, personal integrity. But the nominee, she didn't bring answers. She brought evasions. A steady stream of, I said that as an advocate, sprinkled with, that was rhetorical, and polished off with a tidy helping of academic hedging. It was like watching a witness in a bad crime drama swear up and down that their fingerprints were purely hypothetical. Here's the problem. And it's not partisan, it's structural. When you aspire to the federal bench, the public isn't just evaluating your resume. They're evaluating your worldview, your intellectual honesty, your ability or refusal to say what you believe when the stakes are real. And when cornered with basic, measurable questions, this nominee performed the rhetorical equivalent of pulling the fire alarm and sprinting for the exit. Let's take the most glaring example, the police shooting claim. On record, on a public Ivy League panel, the nominee declared that police kill unarmed black men every single day in America. No caveats, no legal hypotheticals. A blanket, incendiary statement. It played well in activist circles, no doubt. But under oath, under scrutiny, suddenly it wasn't a belief, it was a rhetorical point. Here's the brutal truth. Rhetoric without responsibility is poison in the judiciary. You don't get to whip up outrage at Princeton and then hide behind semantic gymnastics when senators ask if you stand by your words. If you believed it enough to say it on a national stage, you'd better believe it enough to defend it under oath. And if you didn't mean it, well, now we're in even murkier territory, because that's not just poor judgment, that's calculated dishonesty. Kennedy, love him or loathe him, cut through the fog with surgical precision. That's an extraordinary statement to make with no data to back it up. And he's right, because beyond the ideological debate lies a far more corrosive issue, credibility. Every exaggerated, unsubstantiated public claim erodes trust in the legal system. It widens divides, breeds cynicism, and undermines the very legitimacy a judge is supposed to protect. the same sleight of hand played out on voter ID laws. In prior writings, the nominee aligned herself with the standard progressive script. Voter ID laws are racist. They disenfranchise marginalized communities. They're a thinly veiled suppression tactic. But in the Senate hearing, suddenly it was all context. The phrasing was fuzzy. The details were inconvenient. Let's be clear. Disagreement on policy is expected. It's healthy. But obfuscating your own track record under oath isn't ideological flexibility. It's intellectual cowardice. You either believe voter ID laws are racist or you don't. You either believe the courts should dismantle them or you don't. What the public cannot afford is a federal judge who shapeshifts based on who's asking the question. Kennedy's frustration wasn't partisan theater. It was a test of honesty. His message landed hard. I would respect you more if you just told us what you believe. And that's the heartbeat of this hearing. It's not about whether this nominee leans left or right. It's about whether, when the cameras are on and the questions cut deep, they have the spine to own their convictions, or the slipperiness to abandon them for political expedience. Because here's the stakes, stripped of spin. A federal judge isn't a pundit. They're not an activist. They're not a legal chameleon adjusting their colors to suit the confirmation process. They wield enormous power over voting rights, police accountability, civil liberties. If their public record is littered with partisan, provocative statements, but their testimony is a masterclass in selective memory and verbal escape routes, how can anyone, left, right, or center, trust their rulings will be grounded in law, not ideology? This hearing wasn't just a window into one nominee's evasions. It was a mirror held up to the entire confirmation process. The American people don't want philosophical gymnastics. They don't want platitudes about advocacy versus belief. They want clarity, consistency, candor. And if you can't deliver that in front of 100 senators, you sure as hell don't deserve a lifetime appointment behind the bench. A nominee who dodges under oath isn't just waving red flags. They're practically building a warning sign in neon. And yet, here we are, watching another candidate for the federal bench treat transparency like it's optional and honesty like it's negotiable. Spoiler alert, it's not. These hearings, they're not academic debates. They're job interviews for people deciding your rights. And if someone can't show up with clear answers now, what do you think they'll hide behind the robe? We've got enough politicians playing dress up as defenders of justice. Let's not add one more from the bench. So hit like, drop your take in the comments, and subscribe, because this fight for accountability, it's just heating up. And trust me, at Malcolm Varon Talks, we never run out of receipts or sharp takes. Stick around, they're going to hate how much we expose next.